She's starting.
And you're live again.
Thank you, Becca.
Okay, technical difficulties, and we're back and ready to go through the bylaws. Frida, you brought up a point about the section in the bylaws that we're reviewing. Would you restate so that we can further discuss and move forward?
Yes, so what you have up on the screen here is the last sentence on page 1, and then the sentence that follows it goes on to page 2, which is redlined. So the question that I had was, how do we account for, or what is the process for this when we have an officer who filled a vacancy and so did not serve a full term in office? Can they succeed themselves? And according to the way this sounds, as in my understanding of it, officers who have served a full term of office may succeed themselves, but it doesn't say that those who served a part of the term due to a vacancy can also then succeed themselves. So that's the question.
And Board Member Hartman, what I can do, I feel, hearing you mention it, to me it sounds like if they haven't served a full term, they would be able to succeed themselves. But to be sure about that, I've written that question down, and we'll double check with the city attorney to make sure that we're all understanding that language the same way, and suggest maybe clarifying that.
Yeah, I think the question revolves around what it means to serve a full term of office. And you know, somebody could theoretically come in 1 month into a term and say, you know, I'm an officer, I can no longer serve. I was elected as chair, but I can no longer serve, and I'm being sent away, you know, to another job position elsewhere, so I have to resign. So at that point, it could literally be a large portion of the term, or maybe half the term. But what are those instances, and does that get captured in this policy?
This is Sheila Collins. As written, that would be the opposite of what you're saying, Frida, and I would agree. I mean, look at presidential, you know, when somebody comes in halfway through a term for resignation, impeachment or something, they are always eligible to run again.
Right.
Because they haven't served. So I think that needs to be corrected.
Perfect.
Simply officers may succeed themselves. Follow-up question on that. I thought that was just for the chair, not for the vice chair. Is that the way it works with other?
I believe that all the other, maybe not all, but the vast majority of the boards and commissions, I think all members, including the chair, can succeed themselves for 1 year.
Okay, including the vice chair.
Including the vice chair.
Okay.
Yes.
I wonder what the president.
So I wrote, and just to be clear, we're going to clarify that language about not full term. What does that mean? So I've got that down.
Okay.
Thank you.
I agree, get the clarification. I think this is giving permission to succeed, and then, because it says may, and not restricting in any way. So I don't think it would mean you had to serve a full term before you could succeed yourself. There would be no longer a succeeding of a term. But yes, we need the clarification. Really good point. I think some governors ended up in this situation, so that was good.
Well, it could be, you know, it could be just changing or adjusting the language somewhat to say officers who have served a full or partial term of office may succeed themselves. So that opens it up to the scenario.
Good point. This is Sheila Collins. I think the other important word is may. There may be other people who choose to run for that.
That's right.
And it's not will succeed themselves.
May, which they have in there, yes.
It's still an election, basically. So
right.
Yeah.
And then moving on, this is, I felt, the most important, section 3.2, the chair shall not be elected to succeed himself or herself, so that was stricken. So that really was a significant change that was brought forward by this board, so that's deleted out. This is just a minor change, I didn't include that. Language about the secretary here, item E, deleted out. This is just cleanup of the numbers. And, the other item that was adjusted, I hope that I can see it here, I'm looking for the red line, I don't think it's there.
I don't think there's anything.
There was a pronoun change, here it is, yep, city attorney or his designation, deleted out his. So those really were the 6 major changes. What I will do, and this really, Chair Raymond, was to be presented, discussed, brought back to the board in December for an actual vote. So it's supposed to just be presented at this meeting, discussion on it, so which was good since we have some cleanup copies to do. So what I'll do is we'll clean this language up, send it out, it'll reflect the board's suggested changes, and then we can vote on it at the December meeting.
Sounds good.
Go ahead.
Pam?
I think we're focused on that, I love that, that's really interesting, it's a red line for them. But, this says that, they're appointed for a 3-year term, and it doesn't talk about whether or not they can be reappointed. And I know the council has limited terms. I think that people are only allowed to serve on our board and commission for 3 terms.
Two terms.
2 now, yeah.
And a term is three years.
Right.
Right.
So each member may be appointed for up to 2 terms of 3 years each, I think.
So I don't know whether we have to change that, or that's something more about, officership. You know, being an officer, somebody serves 2 terms, and you're only on for 3 years. And then if you're elected to a 2-year, or, you know, you can't serve 2 years because you're on for a 3-year term, somebody serves.
Yeah, well, that's why I think.
Yeah, limited opportunity.
Yeah, right. Okay, good point. Thank you.
Sam, do you mind, which section is that, so I can make note to make sure that's 2.1?
2.0.
Thank you, 2.0. 2.0, okay.
Somebody has their hand raised. Lisa has her hand raised.
Lisa?
Is that the,
There's a lot of
Steve, who has
echoing.
their? Oh, there's echoing.
There's a lot of paper shuffling or something. I'm really
Oh.
having a hard time hearing people.
That might be my paper shuffling. I'm sorry about that, Lisa.
But I don't know who was just talking prior to you that you asked to write stuff down.
Oh, and she's down at the far end of the table with a mask on. Okay, we'll try to talk as clear and loudly as we can.
Thank you.
Thank you. And forgive me, I just want to make sure, are we recommending some changes to section 2.0? Okay. Okay, we set that down.
Okay.
All right, so we'll bring this back in December cleaned up.
Okay.
Well, this is Sheila Collins. Will we be electing officers in December or in January?
January.
Yeah.
Next item on the agenda is the safety in the library update. Mandy Carrico, Senior Library Manager, will provide an update to the library board on safety in the library. This report will include information on common safety challenges and how the library manages safety in library branches. This is the topic for information and discussion. With that, Mandy?
So before the pandemic shut everything down, I know that we were really looking at safety, and the library had decided to run a pilot where we bring in contract security to see if a uniformed presence would help take down some of the safety issues we were having, like before they even started, they would prevent them. And basically we run this pilot for a year to see if it changes our interaction with patrons. We were finding, I was doing a report when we were getting this together, that we were calling Scottsdale PD out for elevated situations about once a week. And we wanted to see what happens when we have a uniformed security person in here to see if those would decrease. 1, because there's uniform presence, and 2, because that person may be able to deliver what we call like trespasses or exit notices when something happens. We had the uniform security for 2 weeks, I think, before it shut down. Upon reopening, we have not had that same behaviors back like we did before the pandemic. In fact, in general, our attendance has been slowly coming back. And some of the issues we have not returned in full force yet. Even so, we are going to try to bring back the security. We have it out there right now that we are trying to recruit library security. However, again, with just the job market the way it is and competitive labor we have had no takers yet from allied security to work in the library. We're leaving it open until we have some. There's no reason not to. We have the permission and the funds. It's just a matter of getting them in here. The other piece of that is that even when they come in, the pilot will be very different. Like everything else, the library's being used differently. The data we collect is not going to reflect what we had when we were fully operational with all the issues. And I have a feeling that the slow climb, as we get back to normal, the issues will return, but it's going to be a while before we're there. So right now, there's not a huge security concern. Our incidents have dropped dramatically, but we're still going to put them in place and see what we can learn as soon as we have people who are interested in that kind of security.
Okay, good. That conclude?
It does, unless there's any questions.
Fred?
Fred Klein here. Tell us something about the uniformed people. Are they city employees? Are they private contractors? What?
They're not. They're temporary contract employees. So the
So
city,
they're not employed by the city.
they are not.
They're employed by contract.
They are. Our original plan was to justify asking for city municipal security employees. That's a large expense to take on. We needed some data behind that, so we wanted to start with contract employee, which that was approved to get that data. So.
And there were one or more in every library?
No, we were focusing on Civic Center and Mustang. Those are the two libraries that have the most issues with behavior. Appaloosa and Arabian didn't have enough of those reports that would warrant the extra expense.
What sort of behaviors bad behaviors are you talking about besides mask disputes, which I assume took up a lot of time?
It did, but they weren't as serious as some of the others. Drug use, alcohol, derogatory slurs, yelling, excessive sleeping and agitation when we try to address it. Anytime threatening staff, anytime it goes beyond a staff's capability to safely handle the situation, we have to call Scottsdale PD. Or anytime the staff try to enforce the rules and the patron is belligerent and refuses, we have to try to have them exit. If they won't, we have to call Scottsdale PD. So those are the instances in where Scottsdale PD would come out to assist.
And do you still do that? Do you still call the cops?
We do, but a lot less. A lot of these behaviors have not returned yet.
Yes.
So people are
I say
behaving.
yes, yes.
People are behaving better since the mask requirement was dropped.
I think, well, the mask requirement, I wouldn't even call that behavior. It was definitely a source of conflict. The behavior I'm talking about is a bit more extreme. And I would say that it drops because overall attendance has not yet come back. So you have a percentage of issues when you have a certain number of attendance. When it drops, the issues drop. When it rises, the issues rise also. So that's why I say
You need
yes.
a few months to see how things adjust.
Yes, we just fully opened in September. It will take a while, I think, before we come back and people get the word out that we're open 7 days a week again.
What's the penalty for acting up in the library? When somebody gets kicked out, do they get arrested? Do they just get booted or?
It depends on what they did. If it was theft, if it was criminal, if it was something that was criminally happening there, then the PD could arrest them for their criminal behavior. If it is a trespass warning, it means that they are no longer allowed to be in the library for a length of time, and the time is determined on how extreme the behavior was. Then if they were to return to the library and violate the trespass, they could be arrested.
How often does this happen in a year, in a normal year, pre-COVID?
And normally you recall them out average once a week, so about 50 that the police would have to assist
For the
us.
entire system, once a week?
For a civic center, our studied civic center.
Uh,
And that is where we need police help in executing this. But people get trespassed more than that. Sometimes the trespass is more peaceful. They just continuously break the rules, or the staff are able to de-escalate and let them know that the behavior is either ongoing or so severe that there's an amount of time they're not allowed to come back. And it can be anywhere from a week, 3 months, 6 months, or a year, no more than a year.
So there's no permanent security there now?
No,
Are
there,
you gonna, would you like to see it return?
well, we didn't have security before. We had the pilot that I described, that was 2 weeks in that we canceled. So we would like to, we are trying to bring that pilot back. and try to make a case for something more permanent with City of Scottsdale employees rather than contract.
So to have uniformed people around is a good idea, you think?
We wanted to see if it's a good idea.
Well, you saw, what do you think?
We saw for 2 weeks, we didn't really get to see if it was a good idea. Excuse me?
2 weeks isn't.
At all.
It's not, no.
So you gotta try it again.
We were trying to do it for a year,
longer
yes.
Period.
Yes.
Where does the money to pay these guys come from? We're talking about the budget all the time.
We are. So in this instance, when we did the pilot, we have positions in the library called library monitors. The monitors are part-time staff about at the pay grade of other paraprofessional staff, like the library aides, and their role is to, enforce with good customer service. So inform people about the rules, make sure the library is peaceful for everybody. But what was frequently happening, it was going above their pay grade. We had to call in supervisors, sometimes we had to call in the police. So we had several monitors retire. We did not fill their positions and instead used the funds from those vacant positions to hire the allied security contract positions.
So the contractors work better than the monitors.
We don't know because 2 weeks later we had to shut down.
This is Janet, let me ask if I can jump in. I used to be a volunteer on the floor. And, I've seen a number of instances that happened where a patron was extremely drunk or urinated or things like that. And sometimes an issue, there wasn't a monitor, then the library staff had to get involved. And I don't think everybody at the library staff level felt comfortable. Sometimes the monitors weren't even prepared or the right fit for enforcing something to calm that patron down. And this is no fault to the library, but it seemed in the past there was a time when the library would sometimes get monitors from appropriated to them from other departments that may not have been the best fit to be a monitor.
We were looking at it as the monitor position as it exists is not sufficient for what's happening at Civic Center and Mustang. We would like to try contract security. So when we had those vacancies, we did not fill them. We brought contract security in instead, but only for a couple of weeks. So we don't have any information. We don't know if it's better than monitors. We don't know if it truly does help lower incidents and relieve staff. We would like to try to bring them back and see to the best of the ability that we can in this new normal that we're in right now.
And you want the program to cost about as much as the monitor program costs.
It could only cost as much as the vacancies because we have to balance the budget.
Can you do that? I mean,
That's the plan.
Well, and the current plan is that we're about,
it's a full-time job, it isn't somebody coming in for a couple hours.
well, we can, so we can pay contract security up to the amount of the monitor vacancies, because that's what we have in our budget.
Thank you.
What hours, this is Janice McElskey, what hours would you, be using the monitors?
The monitors?
Not the security, excuse me.
The afternoons and weekends when most of the problems happen.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Next item on the agenda is the Library Board 2022 calendar. Kira Peters, Library Director, Community Services Administrator, will provide the 2022 Library Board calendar and associated topics per meeting date. This is information and discussion. First thing to point out, Kira, is the topic is general attendance topics. Is it general agenda?
Yes, and thankfully I have the word draft on here. I also noticed another error in there. So this really is a draft, and I would like to, in December, come back with actually a calendar as well with our dates marked on there. So I made that edit on there as well. But this was just a copy in your packet, and these are just very general, based on kind of some of our past history of meetings that I selected these topics to put down. Some of the important things, I think, are the quarterly reports on the budget. Those are always nice and informative. The branch highlights are included. Obviously, in January, the board election of officers, the annual ethics review, and then I really within here kind of sprinkled in some other items, like the safety topic, which we would, cover. It's nice to talk about technology. I put that in April. I know I'm bouncing around a little bit, but summer reading program, some of our significant things. So if anybody has anything to add to this, and you can certainly send me an email if there's any other items that I might have left off. We as a senior team will also talk about this to see if there's anything. This doesn't mean that these are, set in stone necessarily, because Chair Raymond and I get together and develop the board agenda, so we always will add to this as well. But we'll use this as a guide for these general agenda topics, which is what that should have said, not attendance.
The other point, we don't know where we're going to be holding meetings in 22. It may be here, it may go branches. We don't know yet how this is going to work.
Right, and the determination of that will be the COVID spread categories, and the city has pandemic policies as it relates to public meetings, and I think the city is going to be very cautious because they know there's a lot of people that might not be comfortable. I have a feeling, Chair Raymond, that we're going to have this hybrid opportunity for quite some time.
Okay. Sheila, did you have your hand up? I'm sorry. Okay. Marna?
Marna McClendon, did we talk about in a prior meeting, and it might have been Janet, that the Friends would be on?
They're on here. I put them in
Oh, okay.
October. And then we can move those around as well.
Okay, so one time. Okay, thank you. I just totally didn't see that.
No, it's okay. And I mean, these are kind of limited too, so I know it's hard to capture everything. That's why if anybody has anything, you can send me an email or Chair Raymond, and we'll make sure to include it. But I'll edit this up. The other typo that I noticed is the October 2022 meeting, I put year 2 strategic plan. We're in year 3, so I'll edit that as well. So thank you, Chair Raymond.
I do have one more question to Sheila Raymond. Will we be discussing the new strategic plan next year?
That is going to be, I am going to introduce that February 2022 annual strategic plan progress and update, because our new plan that we just updated will be done and ready for me to share out with you in January.
Okay.
And if it's done sooner, Chair Raymond, we could certainly present it in December, because we're putting the final edits on it, I think, this week.
Okay. Very good. Okay. Next item, making sure Frida doesn't have a question. Next item is Appaloosa Library Branch update. Sky Larson, Appaloosa Branch Manager, will share an update on operations and services at Appaloosa Library. This is a topic for information and discussion. With that, Sky, welcome.
Hello.
Do you want to switch chairs so you're closer to the?
Is it all right if I just scoot over here?
Yeah.
I think I've met most of you. I'm Sky Larson, the branch manager in Appaloosa. Just real briefly, wanted to give you all an update about things that are happening at Appaloosa. First of all, we're 12 years old. We just celebrated our 12-year anniversary. We didn't really celebrate because it's not time for celebration, but it is an occasion to celebrate. So on November 12th, we became 12 years old. I wanted to report that the Pony Express continues to do well. Our registrations are continuing. While we're not doing 50 registrations a day, we're still averaging about 8 a day, and all of that being done at the window. Our window, as I said, we've registered nearly 2,500 people, and our attendance is, continuing to be fairly strong as well. I think it went down a little in October, but, people were traveling in October. There were school breaks and that sort of thing. The drive-up window continues to be very strong. We're seeing the library card campaign, I think, brought a lot of people to the library window to get their library card, and therefore then they register for Pony Express. And then, of course, the winter visitors, some of them were not here last year, or they were here last year, but they're just returning for their winter time. We are preparing to open up in January for our 7-day schedule. And I'm calling it a hiring frenzy. We're hiring and training. We interviewed yesterday for one position. We're interviewing for another one tomorrow. So we're just really very focused on that, and that is our primary. There's logistical things that need to happen in order for us to open, but we have to have the people, and we need to get them in trained. So we're working. I would say that's our highest priority. We are still exploring whether or not Pony Express is going to be open to expand hours beyond the hours of the 7-day service. Factors that are being evaluated for that are the logistics of just making that happen, and then there are some cost features or factors that are being reviewed as well. And then one thing not related to opening or staffing is we were happy to host another Friends Airtime with Authors event last, I think it was November 2nd, so maybe it was just last week. Many of you know local author Jen McKinley, who writes cozy mysteries, came and we had a very nice presentation on the patio. So it feels good to be at least doing something that is a little bit like what we used to do.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any questions? Well, thank you for giving me time to share Appaloosa news with you.
We really appreciate
Yay,
it. Very good. Next item on the agenda, Library Director position. Kira Peters, Library Director, Community Service Administrator, will update the board on the Library Director position, overseeing additional responsibilities in the Community Services Division. Kira.
All right, thank you, Chair Raven. So we've talked briefly about this at our last meeting, so I wanted to give an update on the Library Director position and make sure that everybody understands how this is working right now. So I'm serving as the Library Director while I also have Community Services Administrator as part of my title. My primary priority is the library. So what that means, Community Services Administrator, there are things that happen in the Parks and Recreation Department who has a dedicated director. So I'm not overseeing double departments. They have a director there managing that department. Where I come in is almost some of the higher level projects and things of that nature where I might help out or assist with those projects. So that's really where it stands right now. But again, I guess the most important thing I wanted to say to this group is that I'm the library director. That is my priority. I've talked this over with the assistant city manager to make sure he was very well aware of some of the concerns. So I know that there's other employees in the city that might be wearing multiple hats right now as the labor market is moving, and we're doing the best that we can. So I will continue to do the best that I can with this, and the library director position specifically, without somebody being kind of a little bit of double duty, will continue to be on the radar as we move through fiscal years. We are getting ready for fiscal year 22-23. It's going to be me for that year unless, I always say at this time, that's the plan. So unless anything changes, that is the plan. So wanted to report that.
Sheila Collins, did you pick up, can I ask any additional reports in community services as a part of this?
The Parks and Recreation Director reports to me. But outside of that, no. So it's the Senior Library Manager, an Admin Secretary, Parks and Recreation Director. Good question.
Big department,
Yeah.
not 4 times as big as the library.
Yeah, the Parks and Recreation, and hence they do have a director overseeing the operations, personnel, things of that nature. And just for an example, right now there's a lot of Parks and Recreation bond projects, so I might assist with some of that work, community outreach. That's like a recent example of some of the work that I've been doing. And I do meet with, an additional part of my workload is I do meet with the Parks and Recreation Director to get updates on what's happening there, give advice, suggestions, and again, maybe help if needed with any of these upcoming bond projects.
Okay. Screen sharing stop.
Sam has a question.
Pam?
Kara, if someone else, is it accurate to say that you're the library director?
It is.
And if I went online, is that job posted?
The library director posted, I think it is like if you look for positions within the city, yes, it's a position. Is that what you're talking, like job descriptions of in the city? Yes.
Not posted for...
Not for recruitment, no.
No.
Is that, I didn't understand. Like, it is still a position in the city. It's not that they took library director and made it a community services administrator. There is still a position, library director.
Have they given you any indication of when they might be recruiting for a library director?
Right now, it's me. That's the direction. And I'll continue.
What you're sharing with the appropriate people is that we think that there should be a library director. We have one, but that now has bigger responsibilities, and that we're hoping that there will be recruitment soon for full-time library director, and that you will oversee that position in future. My understanding, my fellow board members, right?
Yeah, Kara indicated that she would be 22, 23, would remain in this position. So we have
Through
Through the next fiscal year, for sure. Or at least that's the direction that I've been given right now at this time.
okay,
So that's status update on that.
thank you. What's that? Fred, I'm sorry, Fred?
Yeah, Fred Klein. How long has it been since Scottsdale has had a dedicated, I don't mean in work-wise, library director? How long is this?
Yeah, I was,
Position
yes,
been
I was promoted in, I think it was in April, where I was initially the library director and then took on additional responsibilities to be library director / community services administrator. That happened in April.
Yes, April 9th, we received the email from you. April 11th was when when it was official.
Email.
Is there any statutory requirements for this job, education or experience?
This is, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah,
Or,
I don't know about that, but yeah, there are job,
Well, yeah, that's what I'm trying to get at here.
yeah, there are job requirements for it, and those are posted online. I certainly
Which
don't-
are what?
Well, some of the, I don't have them memorized, Fred, but you could look that up on
generally
the,
speaking, you need a degree in library science?
you do not need a, no, that's not a requirement.
You have to have experience in the field?
Without reading the job description, I don't want to misquote it, but you do have to have certain years of experience. You have to have, I'm not even sure if a master's is a requirement. I think it might say a master's in a related field. So, you know, for example, mine is a master's I'm public administration, organizational leadership is my master's
I'm
degree.
not saying you're not qualified.
No, I know that. I was just trying to, I can certainly send you over.
Maybe Scottsdale could do without a full-time library director.
Oh, I don't think so.
No?
Not at all.
Really?
Well,
okay,
right now.
but, you know, temporary seems to be a long time.
Well,
Like you-
she didn't come in temporary.
Yeah, no, I'm not temporary.
No.
Yeah.
She, Sam?
I might just be able to speak a little to that with long ago experience. But I think that there's a theory of city management that people who reach a certain level might be the library director who was hired with a library degree, but it, you know, is going to be good deputy city manager or ultimately a city manager sometime, and let's put him out at the library, let's put him out at the airport. And if he does real well there, then let's put him in charge of, you know, the courtyard or something, you know, that you get to a certain level and a certain amount of education, and, you know, a healthy city would have people who were in that succession chain, so that when those positions open up, that they have people who have a long, varied history with the city. I'm not saying that's what Jim Thompson is doing, but that has surely happened in the past.
So the city, department directors are kind of interchangeable.
Well, that,
Vocational opportunities.
yeah. Growing talented staff.
I'm learning, that's all it used to be.
Career development.
Think that's a good idea?
Dick Bowers was one of the best city managers we ever had. He would tell you it's an excellent idea, because he served in a half a dozen different directorships before he was made city manager.
Excellent.
So you're not looking for a specialist?
It's not me. Different
the
city
city.
managers have different
The
styles.
city doesn't look for a
Different
specialist.
city managers have different styles.
How about this one?
I don't know. And I wasn't trying to say that's what he's doing, but I am saying in the past, that has been done very successfully.
Okay, that's very interesting.
Cool. Okay. Are we good? Next item on the agenda is the library liaison. Sheila Raymond, Library Board Chair, will lead a discussion on how the board liaisons to the library branches could recognize staff during the holiday season. This is for information and discussion. There isn't a requirement that we take treats to the staff. It's something that we did, I think, 2 years now. It's not recognizing any specific holiday. It's just saying, you know, we appreciate everything that you've done. And with COVID concerns, if you are going to bring in a treat, it should be an individually wrapped treat, whether it's little candy bars or if you're going to do that. I'm not telling you what you have to do. I'm telling you that that's what we've done in the past. Each library board member has been assigned to a library. The two larger branches, Mustang and Civic Center, have 2 library board members assigned, and then there's one to Arabian and one to Appaloosa. So with that, any discussion?
Is there, this is Sheila Collins, is there a time period that you would like the week of blank?
That would be staff direction. Is there a time period that would be?
I would
think
think second week,
anything-
second week in December?
Yeah, anything between after Thanksgiving and before Christmas, as long as it's not on that Christmas week, you're gonna hit most staff.
Okay. So I don't think we have to lock down a specific week if we have some flexibility. Will that work for everybody?
This is Jan.
This is,
It's just a nice gesture. We decided a couple years ago, rather than have, back when we could do these things, rather than us bringing treats in for each other, and having a little party thing, we would rather, as a board, give back to the staff. And the way we could do that was at the holiday season, bring in some kind of treats for them from us. And I know from what I've heard, and I used to be in the library more often, it was greatly appreciated. And as Sheila said, now the challenge is to provide treats that are individually wrapped. You can't bring in, give a cake or, yeah, exactly. Sheila, I will mention, knows a company, and I won't say the company because, we're not promoting anything, but there is a company that does individual brownies wrapped at a reasonable price. Something like that, so it's up to each board member to decide if they want to do it, and if they do, what do they want to do. In the past, Mandy, I think, gave us a list of how many staff were at each location, just so we get an idea of how many.
That would be helpful.
And, yes, I will do that so you know where the levels are.
Yeah, that would be good, yeah.
And then also, if you don't feel comfortable doing this, we're not forcing you to do this, but please let me know. Just send me an email, tell me, so I can make sure that we've covered the other branch. The other thing is, if you would be so kind as to just, even on a little piece of paper, just a note of appreciation and thanks, and sign it, that would be nice so they know where it came from. And I would appreciate that. So, Mandy.
So this is Mandy. I will say thank you for reminding me about the list. The week does matter now, because the amount of onboarding we have, and each week how many people are starting. If you tell me what week, I will do my best guess based on who we've hired and when their start dates are. Because it could be like at Appaloosa, the difference between 8 and 12 people. So.
Okay. That would be helpful.
Rita does have her hand up.
Barnum McClendon, I've just worked with Sky, my super duper Appaloosa branch, and we figure out an appropriate time, or any time that morning. It doesn't have to be a time specific. And I will say they are very appreciative. In my visits, I would go by the cubicles, and I'd see the bows that I gave them, because I gave them each a different bow last year. And they're up there, so I mean, so they really do, I think. Staff does appreciate that little kindness gesture.
Okay.
yeah, this is Frida.
Yes, Frida.
Yes, thank you. I had a comment on that, and I wondered if, when we talk about giving something that the staff appreciate and that just kind of communicates to them how much we appreciate them, I wonder whether we can ask them or have asked them, what would be meaningful to them from the library board if we wanted to express our thanks and appreciation during the holidays to our staff members of the library where we're a liaison to. What would be meaningful there? And maybe to ask the manager or the staff or both to get their input on it. I wonder if we have any information on that that's already been done with some branches, or where we might stand on that, because it might be nice to just hear from them what would really be appreciated.
That's a great idea, Frida. This is Sheila Raymond. I would suggest you work with your library branch manager as a liaison, that you work that out with your individual branch rather than try and address it for the entire SPL. So if you just work with your individual branch, I think you'll get the answer that you need, plus the number. If there's a change because of onboarding, you'll have a more exact number perhaps. But since your role is working with the branch manager, I think this is a great opportunity to just reach out to them.
Yeah, I think, and I guess my point was, instead of and it would be up to, it might be different from branch to branch, and probably would be.
Right.
But instead of pre-assuming that everybody there would like a certain thing that we buy, whether it's treats or whatever, just to kind of have that communication flow and just ask them. So that was my comment. I'll be glad to do that. I know Janet and I are at the same library, so we can.
Great.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Okay, moving on is the director's report. Kira Peters, Library Director, Community Service Administrator, will provide the library board with a summary, of current events in the library. This, just a reminder, is for information only. The board cannot discuss or vote on items that are not on the agenda, including items brought up as the director's report. If discussion or action by the board is required, the item should be placed on an upcoming meeting agenda to be consistent with the Arizona Open Meeting Law. Kira.
Thank you, Chair Raymond. I will dive right in. There we go. Okay, we've already talked about the library director position. Wanted to give the board an update on the Skyroom project. This is a nice image of some of the demo work that's been done. So right now, if you go into that space, it has been demoed, and they're actually really making a lot of quick progress on the construction of what we are now going to call the Skyroom, not the Storytime Room. Mandy, myself, and the branch manager here at Civic Center go to regular meetings with the contractors, and they are on target to have the Skyroom complete by March of 2022. So I'll continue to keep the board updated on this project. Staff qualifications was something that was brought up at our last meeting. I consulted with our human resources staff and director, and their preference is if you have specific questions about specific library staff qualifications, that will be something that you can send myself an email, and I can certainly talk you through those with HR support if necessary. So I know that was just a topic that we talked about, and if you really do have certain questions, HR thought more appropriate to just do that individually at this stage. So wanted to touch base on that. Again, this is just my slides are a little bit out of order here. This is a picture of the Skyroom. This is what it looked like before some of the construction started. This is a wonderful picture. We had the Spirit of Literacy, and I know some of you were in attendance of this on November 7th, 2021, where we recognized members of our community that make significant contributions to the library. It was a wonderful morning. You can see the joy on everyone's faces. So thank you for those of you who attended. Again, it was nice to be able to offer some of these safely in person. So it was really nice, and we definitely appreciate the support of the community for the library. This is a picture, and I really want to commend Melissa Orr, who has been working her tail off lately with a lot of different events. This is a picture of the Pride Parade, and it's my understanding that board member Marna McLendon was there in full force. Is that you, Marna, right here?
That's
you.
Yes.
We really appreciate that. So strong showing. The library was actually recognized today in Jim Thompson's leadership meeting about having a very strong presence at the Pride Parade with our band. So Melissa, thank you. It was wonderful to support this cause and have so many staff involved and enjoying that. Very cool. Also, the Frying Free celebration happened this past Friday night. I will have to say we were unsure of what to expect, but this was the culmination of our library card campaign. The goal was to get 2,000 people signed up and registered for library cards. We had well over 2,000. I can't remember the...
We have more than 2,500.
More than 2,500 now. I keep
yet.
saying, yep, not totals yet. So very much a success. The event was at the stadium. We were talking a little about this earlier. We had 640 people in attendance, and that is even with Canal Convergence going on right next door. As Melissa would probably report out, the community loved it. We kept hearing how much they enjoyed it, the music, the kids, and it was really, Melissa, I'd say all ages. So it was a wonderful concert. We are going to have to consider whether or not this is something we do annually, because the community definitely, I think, would appreciate that.
How were raffle sales?
Oh, I know that answer. This is
We'll wait
January.
for that on the report out, sorry.
All right, that's okay.
These are just some fun images, and here you mentioned the 50/50 raffle. Here's Carol and Trey, you know, in the midst of working it. Here's Mandy signing people up for library cards with Aaron. This is the branch manager. Oh, I'm sorry, you guys. Oops, there we go. Branch manager here at Civic Center. We did bag checks as people came into the stadium. So it was a really successful event. I mentioned this earlier, but we have submitted the fiscal year 22-23 decision package for the materials collections budget restoration. So that is in. And that concludes the director's report. Thank you, Chair Raymond.
Thank you, Kara. This is, next item is the identification of future, thank you, Sheila.
Thank you.
The identification of future agenda items. Please note that Sheila Collins had to leave at 5:12. Identification of future agenda items. The library board may suggest items they wish to be placed on a future agenda, but the library board may not discuss, deliberate, or take legal action on any matter in the identification of future agenda items unless the specific matter is properly noticed for legal action. Information, discussion, and possible action. Roll call vote. So does anybody have any suggestions for future agenda items that we have not discussed? We know we're going to do the bylaws and the letter.
Kind of a random question, the next board meeting may not be the appropriate place to talk about it, but in the future maybe. Do we have any idea what the diversity is of library patronage? I ask that because I participated in census. I did a special project for them, and I get their kind of reports back out, you know, what that census is. And when I first went on to the council, Scottsdale's population was 6% minority population, non-white, and now it's over 20%. 1 in 5 identifies as non-white, and I'm just not sure that I see that. You know, I see it at Scottsdale Fashion Square, or you know, see it in some public places, but I don't see it everywhere. And, you know, I'm just curious. You know, if people that identify as non-white are maybe more library users, you know, than others, and I don't know how we find that out, or if that's something that we could.
Okay, yeah. We'll put that on a future agenda because we can't discuss it. But...
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Yeah, wonderful, something to celebrate.
Frida, do you have your hand up? I can't see you.
Yes. I have a suggestion. In the spirit of, you know, what all of us in the community have been going through this past year and 2 years, actually. But I wonder if it would be appropriate in our December meeting to just take some time to talk about what we've accomplished as a board over the past year and to give some shout outs of appreciation to people or groups that, you know, we worked with or we interacted with and who've done some really great work, or we want to just say a big thank you to. Just kind of an opportunity to do that in the spirit of community.
Good idea. I have that down. Anyone else? Okay, next item on the agenda, board member reports. Board members may give a brief summary of current events, information only. The board cannot discuss or vote on items not on the agenda, including items brought up as board members' reports. If discussion or action by the board is required, the item should be placed on an upcoming meeting agenda to be consistent with the Arizona open meeting law. So Janet, I know you represent us at the Friends, if you'd like to lead off.
Yeah, I will just make this brief. The Friends helped sponsor the event. That was a big success last Friday. And they said that they sold over $1,000 in raffle tickets, which was really, really high, which is more than any of them expected. What Terry says, with 640 library card holders in attendance, we averaged almost one ticket sold for every 2 attendees. So they were extremely pleased with that outcome. The other thing Terry wanted to mention was they were very happy with the return of the Spirit of Literacy Awards, and they greatly appreciate library board members who were able to attend. The Friends are excited to build back some of the traditions from the Friends of past years, because now they're so active. And they know how much we do support them. When we discussed the topic Frida brought up, that would be a good time to acknowledge them too. So that's it.
Great. Anyone else? Sam?
Sorry.
No?
Jim, aren't they doing the restaurant, cooperative?
Well, they did a restaurant event last night, the White Castle.
We were there.
Oh, I don't eat meat, so I didn't go. Or french fries. They have a series of other things that are on their website, so I wasn't going to report out on those right now.
I think if there's a way for us to know about all of those.
Well, they're on the website. I highly suggest that everybody go. You can link over from the library to the Friends website, and they list everything all the time. Trey keeps that really, really up to date.
Great.
And they have a Facebook page too.
We did have a lot of positive, this is Sheila Raymond, we did have a lot of positive feedback at the event on Friday night. I did have a little drawing here that a girl, probably about 12 years old, made at the event and brought it. Her name is Annalise, I will not say her last name, but she drew it at the event and brought it over to me, and her home library is the Civic Center Library, which is why I brought it in today. She even drew the logo, how about that?
Wow.
We did have adults who said, one adult said, I told my wife this was something I wanted to do, and I made her go and get her library card because I didn't want any problems, and so I made her go and get it. So I said, what about your library card? Well, she was doing it, so I could get in with her. So it was entertaining, but the adults had a great time, and so I would, highly suggest that we do it again in the future. Some suggested next month. I'm not suggesting that, but it was very well done, and you guys did a great job, and the public really responded well. And just a personal anecdote, my husband said that it was amazing to see all the kids. They had places to run and play and stay active, and the parents could enjoy the music or they could enjoy watching them play. And the way it was set up was fantastic, and people who wanted to sit in the seats could sit in the seats. So well done, well planned, great idea to do that. So good job there.
And this is Mandy. I'll just give a special kudos to Melissa because she spearheaded it. And the amount of work that went in behind the scenes is, yes, I'll use that word, unbelievable.
And the canine dogs.
Yes, the therapy canines, yes.
Yes.
Definitely exciting. Okay, with that,
Chair Raymond, can I make one? I'm going to include next time that we have hired on an admin secretary who will be starting next week. So at the December meeting, I'll be make sure to include information on her and have her here at the meeting to introduce. So that'll be a future agenda item as well.
Thank you. With that, we're going to go ahead and close out today's meeting. Next meeting is going to be December 15th at 3:30. It will be here. And it will have the virtual ability as well. So Frida or anyone else who wants to remain virtual are going to be able to do this. We'll have our technology locked in. Sorry about the inconvenience, Frida. Thank you for your patience.
That's okay. No problem.
And to the staff who helped facilitate getting us back on. Okay, so can I get a motion to adjourn today's meeting?
So moved.
Sam? Okay, seconded by Frida. First motion was Sam. With that, we need a roll call vote. Chair Sheila Raymond, aye. Vice Chair Janet Smigelski.
Aye.
Board Member Sam Campana. Aye. Sheila Collins had to leave. Frida Hartman.
Aye.
Fred Klein.
Aye.
Marna McClendon.
Aye.
With that, this meeting is adjourned at,